My name is Napoleon Hill. I devoted my life to one single question. Why do some people succeed while others struggle despite working just as hard for more than 20 years? I studied the lives of the most successful men of my time, men like Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison. I did not study their money. I studied their minds. What I discovered changed everything. Success is not an accident. Failure is not fate. Both begin in the same place. The human mind. I learned that fear is the greatest enemy of progress, and worry is fear's favorite disguise. But I also learned this: faith is the most powerful force available to man. When a person aligns belief with purpose, circumstances begin to shift. God works through thought, through intention, through unwavering belief, and when you trust God with what seems impossible, you unlock a power far greater than effort alone. This message is not theory. It is proven truth. And now, I invite you to listen carefully, because what you are about to hear has the power to change the direction of your life. There comes a moment in every life when worry becomes louder than hope. You wake up with it, you carry it through the day, you sleep with it sitting heavy on your chest. Worry whispers questions that never end. What if it doesn't work out? What if you lose everything? What if God is silent because you did something wrong? But here is a truth many people never fully accept. Worry is not just a feeling. It is a signal that you are trying to control what was never meant to be in your hands. God never asked you to carry the weight of tomorrow. He asked you to trust Him today. Most people misunderstand trust. They think trusting God means doing nothing, sitting back, waiting passively. That is not faith. That is fear wearing a religious mask. Real trust is active. It is choosing peace while the storm is still raging. It is moving forward even when you cannot see the next step. Look at your life honestly. There are things you tried to fix, things you tried to force, doors you tried to push open with your own strength. And yet, the more you pushed, the more anxious you became. The more you worried, the heavier life felt. Why? Because some battles are impossible on purpose. They are designed to push you out of self-reliance and into God dependence. God specializes in the impossible, not because He wants to impress you, but because He wants to free you. Think about this. If you could solve everything on your own, would you ever truly need God? Worry keeps you busy. Faith makes you free. Worry says, what if it fails? Faith says, even if it fails, God is still good. Worry focuses on outcomes. Faith focuses on obedience. You are not weak for worrying. You are human. But staying in worry is a choice, and today you can choose differently. There are moments when God allows things to look impossible, so you stop negotiating and start surrendering. Surrender is not giving up. Surrender is giving over. You give over your timeline. You give over your expectations. You give over your need to understand everything. One of the hardest truths to accept is this: God rarely explains Himself in advance. He doesn't give full maps. He gives daily bread. He doesn't remove uncertainty. He replaces fear with peace. Peace is not the absence of problems. Peace is the presence of God. Some of you are praying for clarity, but God is asking for trust. Some of you are asking, why is this happening? But God is asking, will you stay faithful even when you don't understand? The impossible situation in your life is not a punishment. It is an invitation to stop worrying, an invitation to trust deeper than ever before. You see, worry assumes you are alone. Faith remembers you are not. Worry says it's all on me. Faith says God is already ahead of me. God is not late. He is not confused. He is not overwhelmed by what overwhelms you. He sees what you cannot see. He knows what you do not know. And He works in ways you may never fully understand. The problem is not that God is untrustworthy. The problem is that worry has trained your mind to expect disaster instead of deliverance. Faith is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. And every impossible situation is a training ground. Stop measuring God by your limitations. Stop shrinking His power to fit your logic. What feels impossible to you is ordinary to God. He parted seas. He raised the dead. He turned defeats into testimonies, and He is still the same today. You don't need more control. You need more trust. Let go of the questions that have no answers yet. Release the fear that keeps replaying worst-case scenarios. God does His best work in surrendered hearts. When you stop worrying, you make space for miracles. When you trust God, you invite the impossible to move. This is not the end of your story. This is the turning point. And in the next part, we will talk about why God often waits, why silence does not mean absence, and how to trust Him when nothing seems to change. One of the hardest tests of faith is not pain, it is silence. Pain at least gives you something to react to. Silence leaves you alone with your thoughts. You pray, you believe, you wait, and nothing seems to happen. This is where worry tries to return. It starts asking dangerous questions. Did God hear me? Did I miss my chance? Am I being ignored? But silence does not mean absence, and delay does not mean denial. God's silence is often His strategy. There are seasons when God speaks loudly, and there are seasons when He speaks through waiting. Waiting is not wasted time, it is preparation time. Most people think the blessing is the goal, but God is more interested in who you become before the blessing arrives. If God answered every prayer instantly, faith would never mature. It would remain shallow, dependent on results instead of relationship. God uses waiting to deepen trust, to remove shortcuts, to expose what you truly rely on. Ask yourself honestly, if God fixed everything today, would your heart still seek Him tomorrow? Waiting reveals motives, it reveals impatience, it reveals fear, and it reveals faith. Some blessings carry weight, and not everyone is ready to carry them. So God prepares the person before He releases the promise. You see, worry grows in the waiting, but so does faith. The difference depends on what you feed. If you replay fears, worry multiplies. If you repeat truth, faith strengthens. God is never inactive in the waiting. He is aligning things you cannot see. He is moving people. He is closing doors that would have destroyed you later. He is protecting you from answers that arrive too early. You call it delay. He calls it mercy. Many times what you want is not the problem. The timing is. God sees the full picture. You see, a single frame. Trust means believing that God's timing is better than your urgency. There is a reason God does not reveal everything at once. If He did, fear would overwhelm you. Instead, He gives just enough light for the next step. Faith is not about knowing where you are going. It is about knowing who is walking with you. The enemy loves the waiting season because this is where doubt feels logical. This is where people quit, settle, lower their standards. Do not make permanent decisions during temporary delays. God is shaping something in the unseen. Remember this, every delay is working for you, not against you. The waiting season builds spiritual muscles you will need later. Patience, humility, discernment. God often withholds answers because you are still becoming. You are not forgotten. You are being formed. Some of the strongest people you admire were once hidden, unseen, unrecognized. Before God uses you publicly, He grows you privately. Silence refines your hearing. Waiting purifies your trust. When nothing changes on the outside, something is changing on the inside. You may feel weak, but faith is quietly taking root. Do not rush the process. Do not compare your timeline. God is never behind schedule. He knows exactly when to move, and when He does, it will be sudden. What takes years to prepare can change in a moment. That is how God works. The waiting is not punishment, it is protection. And when the moment is right, worry will no longer have a voice. Faith will speak instead. There's a point in every faith journey where praying turns into releasing. You stop asking God to change things, and you start allowing Him to change you. This is where real trust begins. Letting go is not losing control. It is realizing you never truly had it. Most worry comes from the illusion of control. We plan, we predict, we prepare, and yet life still surprises us. Trusting God means accepting this truth. You are responsible for obedience. God is responsible for outcomes. Once you understand this, peace becomes possible. You no longer wake up anxious about results. You wake up focused on faithfulness. When you release control, you stop forcing answers. You stop chasing clarity. You stop bargaining with God. You simply rest. Rest is an act of faith. It says, God, I believe you are working even when I cannot see it. The hardest prayers are not the loud ones. They are the quiet ones. God, I trust you. God, I surrender. God, your will, not mine. These prayers change everything because God responds to surrender faster than desperation. The impossible begins to move when you stop trying to move it yourself. Many people miss miracles because they refuse to let go. They want God's power without God's process. But trust requires release. Release your expectations. Release your timelines. Release the version of the future you imagined. God's plans are not smaller than yours. They are higher. Sometimes God says no because he has something better. Sometimes he says wait because you are not ready yet. And sometimes he says nothing because trust must mature. Your job is not to understand. Your job is to remain faithful. Fear asks, what if it all falls apart? Faith answers, even then, God will rebuild. You are not trusting in circumstances. You are trusting in a constant God. Circumstances change. God does not. When you trust God with the impossible, you stop measuring life by outcomes. You measure it by obedience. And obedience always leads to peace. Look back at your life. You have survived things you once thought would destroy you. That was not luck. That was God. He carried you when you were too tired to walk. He protected you when you didn't even know you were in danger. If he did it before, he will do it again. The impossible you face today will become the testimony you share tomorrow, but testimonies require time and trust. God often works in ways that make sense only in hindsight. One day you will look back and say, now I understand why it had to happen this way. Until then, trust must be enough. Stop worrying about how it will work out. God already has a way. Stop replaying worst-case scenarios. God writes better endings than your fear ever could. Peace is not found in answers. It is found in surrender. And when you truly trust God, worry loses its grip. You don't need to know what's next. You just need to know who is with you. God has never failed. Not once. And he will not start with you. Trust him with the imp. Possible, let go, rest, and watch how God moves.